Climate change is defined as significant changes in global temperature, precipitation, wind patterns, and other measures of climate that occur over several decades or longer. There is a lot of controversy surrounding the main causes of this change in climate. Based on previous research, global climate change scientists have come to the conclusion that climate change is mainly due to human actions. Humans have specifically contributed to this issue through industrialization, which has allowed for pollutants in the form of fossil fuels and other greenhouse gases to be released into the atmosphere, which allows less heat to escape to space and more to return to Earth. Everyone is going to be affected by negative effects of climate change, regardless of social status, class, race, gender, or geographical location. But who will bear the brunt of it? Today's youth have contributed less to climate change than any other previous generation. Unfortunately, they are the ones who will be most affected by this. Climate change has proven to be especially devastating to minority populations. For the purpose of this video, there will be specific focus placed on children. According to UNICEF, 500 million children live in high flood areas and 160 million children live in high drought zones. The consequences of this include water scarcity, food insecurity, and other diseases that are especially dangerous to children. Ideology in the old sociology of childhood states that children are not yet 100% adults. Specific to the issue of climate change, this is problematic because when personhood is limited, it prevents children from having any say in creating an environmentally sustainable environment. According to research by Hannah and Olivia, climate change is particularly dangerous for children in developing countries. Bartlett's research found that those who live in developing countries are typically at the highest risk of experiencing a natural disaster, and when one strikes, they do not have the resources available to take preventative measures or rebuild. Therefore, food insecurity and other factors that affect these young children living in poverty set in. Effects on children's health are one of the biggest consequences of climate change on children who live in developing countries. According to a research study done by Adhoot and Pacheco, climate change affects the mental and physical health of children through heat stress, lower air quality, changing disease, natural disasters, and food insecurity in developing countries. For example, crops are producing lower and lower yields every year. This leads to poor nutrition. Additionally, natural disasters affect developing countries more because they do not have the resources needed to take preventative measures, evacuate people, or rebuild. One of many examples of this occurring is a flood that happened in Southeast Asia in 2011. Finally, little access to education in these developing countries is very detrimental to the children's ability to ever break this cycle as well as learn how to prevent it. Since Bartlett's research proved that children are still developing, it is important to consider that currently malnutrition underlies nearly 3.1 million deaths of children younger than 5 years old worldwide, and is responsible for 45% of the disease burden in this age group. According to Stanberry, Thomas, and James's 2018 research, the contaminants in the air that children breathe, along with increased exposure to natural disasters, not only have a disproportionate effect on children's health, but on social and behavioral outcomes. Adhoot and Pacheco found that children are affected more by extreme heat, poor air quality, and specific infectious diseases such as diarrheal illness, Vibrio, and cholera than adults. As a result of this research, it is obvious that changes in society and policies surrounding climate change need to happen. Such programs that would do this include emergency food programs, strengthening families in their ability to cope, and allowing children to have a chance at active involvement in this issue. Since policy change is necessary when it comes to the negative consequences of climate change on children, this research is very important. So, to recap, here is a quick breakdown of what we went over. According to Adhoot and Pacheco, a new public health movement is needed to educate, advocate, and collaborate with local and national leaders regarding the risks that climate change poses to children and the major health benefits associated with mitigation policy. In Mintz's 2004 book, Huck's Raft, he discusses how certain social conditions lead to increased outspokenness of younger generations. Throughout U.S. history, children have made serious contributions. Therefore, as this current activist generation emerges, today's youth can be useful in tackling issues of climate change. Since social forces bear down equally on children, and in the case of climate change will actually have more of an effect on them than it will on adults, it is crucial that we include them in this discussion, educate them on the issues, and give them equal rights to adults. Rosch explained that it is argued that a child is not fully formed and dependent on adults, making childhood socially constructed in a way that limits their personhood. While it is often done out of a concern to protect children, Rosch's research shows that this is actually more harmful in the long run. We need to listen to children properly and consult them in our ideas surrounding environmental sustainability. As children get more involved in activism surrounding climate change, UNICEF has proposed the goal of cutting greenhouse gas emissions, which will reduce children's suffering from climate change. To contribute to this goal, today's youth are beginning to take an active role in the issue of climate change, standing up for their own futures and fighting to change policy. 16-year-old Jamie Marjolin is at the forefront of this movement. She was also involved in the organization of the group 0 Hour, which marched for climate change this past summer in Washington, D.C. These are just two of the many groups which children have organized to help fight climate change. Kelsey Juliana's parents gave her the tools and resources necessary to get involved in activism, and when she was only in 5th grade, she became a climate change activist. Juliana was also involved in our Children's Trust and participated in a lawsuit, Juliana versus United States in Oregon, to urge today's government to follow a national climate recovery plan. These children want to hold the government accountable for climate change and come up with a plan to take action against the fossil fuel industry. Therefore, this research proves that children can play an active role in changing policies and should be taken seriously.